Right. Hey guys, and welcome to Age of Grogu. And welcoming in, we have got Elijah, Jason, and Max. How's it going, guys?
Hey.
And today we are going to be talking about Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters Afterlife. We are going to kind of cover all the different bits and pieces. And we also have with us a special guest from Holonet Marauders, Jamie. How's it going, Jamie?
Hey everybody! Thank you so much for having me. I've been dying to talk about Ghostbusters because my podcast is just Star Wars, but Ghostbusters is my #1. So thank you for having me.
No, totally. It's great to have you here. We've been wanting to do this for a while, and we keep getting caught up with work or other things. But yeah, I guess Jamie, just quickly, what is it about Ghostbusters for you that has kind of appealed so much to you specifically?
For me, Ghostbusters was truly like the first thing that like really like allowed me to like be a nerd, like truly. Like growing up, like I took dance lessons and like that was like the big thing for me. And like I really wasn't into like anything else like nerdy. And then Ghostbusters just kind of happened. And I really can't explain it, but like everything from like I stumbled into watching classic Saturday Night Live, stumbled into watching all of Dan Aykroyd stuff. Ghostbusters and the Blues Brothers were there, and I'm like, holy crap, this is amazing. And it really just like blossomed from there. And so for me, I'm a younger Ghostbusters nerd, and so it's like weird that like I was like so obsessed with it in high school because I had no business being in high school in like mid 2010s and being obsessed with Ghostbusters. There was nothing coming out. There was a new video game when I was a freshman in high school, but that was it. And so it was like it was just so weird that it was my favorite, but it just has been, and I'm so excited that there's so much love for it again.
Yeah, that's definitely that's how I think most of us feel. Actually, it's just one of those things.
Yeah, that was a quiet time for Ghostbusters around the time when you were in high school, right?
Yeah.
And when you discovered it, it's crazy that it found its way to you and you were able to dig it up and be like, wow, look at this amazing thing that happened.
It's just so weird. Like I always loved like classic movies, like any sort of like classic 80s movies or even anything like later like as well, or sorry, earlier as well. Like I always like loved watching like with my family. For some reason that wasn't Star Wars, but that's a different story.
Okay.
Hey, I don't know. But it really just like developed that way, and like Ghostbusters really became like my first like online community, like going on like the ancient like GB fans like forums and whatnot. Like I really should not have been on there as like, you know, like a high school girl, but like I was, and like nothing weird happened. I'm fine, but like it was interesting that was my first pretty much like brush with fandom, and that's what Ghostbusters was for me.
What is for me? In Ghostbusters do you relate to most?
Can you repeat that?
What character in Ghostbusters do you relate to the most?
The Ray.
First one, or what do you like? What was it?
Ray.
Was it Ray?
Ray. Can't you guys tell from like my excitement in general? Like point blank, like it's Ray.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah.
It's always been Ray. I mean, like I wanted to watch Ghostbusters. Yeah. Like I have jokingly been called Heart of Holonet Marauders as well, like because of that. But like it's always been Ray. Like I went into Ghostbusters wanting to watch it because of Dan Aykroyd, because The Blues Brothers is my all-time favorite movie. But like and then Ghostbusters. So like I went into it for that, and then over the recent years, it's been Egon as like my second favorite. But Ray will always be my favorite.
That's cool. So Max, what about yourself? How was Ghostbusters introduced to you?
Really through my parents as a kid. My dad was just a huge Bill Murray fan, and since I was, born in '95, it was always really just kind of available to me growing up. So my dad was always showing me the movies, telling me what he thought was the funniest, repeating the lines to me, and just instilled a sense of ghost busting inside of me.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Jason, what about yourself?
Being a kid who grew up in the '80s, it's kind of hard not to. Not to watch it. It's just it's there.
Yeah, I was 14, so yeah.
Oh yeah, it was always there.
Yeah. Did you ever see it in the theaters?
The only one I saw in the
theaters
was Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah. Okay, all right.
I was just a baby, I guess, when the first one came out, but it was always around, just like the way Star Wars was. It was just part of that lineup that raises you as an 80s kid.
Yeah, I was there from the very beginning. I remember it way back when I was 14 years old and seeing it
14 is older than older than I was.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because even I saw it in the theater as a 5-year-old.
Right.
But I specifically remember going in. It was just me and my sister. My parents were seeing another movie, so they saw Ghostbusters. They saw another thing. But I can remember every part of it. And to really enjoy it as a 5-year-old, speaks to the enjoyment of the movie. Where it's not made to be a family-friendly movie, although it is rated PG. It's just one of those '80s movies that like that covers all boundaries.
It was PG for the '80s.
Well, what's cool about it is as a child you could enjoy it because it's crazy special effects.
It's adult, and they're not talking down to you, and you're not. It's not silly or it's not childish or cartoony.
As you get older, you start to catch other things. You're just like, oh man, I didn't know all these jokes in it.
Right.
So, has anybody had the chance to go back and watch it back in the theater again? Because they've dropped it several times over the years back in the theater. Yeah,
I think it was in 2014, possibly.
Okay,
it was like the 30th anniversary.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, that would check out. Yeah, the 30th anniversary. They did a re-release, and so AJ and I, my boyfriend, my fiance, on Holonet Marauders, we went into Boston and saw it at one of the really big screens, and it was really cool because that was the first time I got to see it in theaters, and so
nice, very cool.
It was great.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. So, yeah, let's pass this then off to Elijah for a little bit. Elijah, we are going to have you start off. You're going to talk a little bit about
Ghostbusters, the original.
Ghostbusters, the original. Yes, there you go. And, yeah.
You know, as
Ghostbusters.
Ghost.
Yep.
They had, while making it, they had to call it a bunch of different names because they weren't sure they could get the title for Ghostbusters.
Right.
But yeah, 1984, rated PG for 1984. So, just the great thing about this movie is it's taken so seriously. It's like on a serious level. There's nothing really silly about the movie. It's played straight. The only one that's like a little bit Bill Murray is the sarcastic one, which makes it funny. But the threat of the movie is real, and it's not really dumbed down, which is part of what I like about it. And it's just really a simple story about, paranormal investigators that get kicked out of school instead of a business for themselves just before like all this paranormal that they're testing comes to like fruition and it starts getting really busy. They break into this business and start rolling in all this money, and then, an interdimensional space god comes to the top of a New York high-rise to take over Manhattan by the end of the movie. So it's a wild story, but also very grounded and believable, like 100%, which is, I think, hilarious.
So what would you class, each of you, I'm going to throw this question out there, as being like your favorite scene in the first Ghostbusters? Elijah, what's your favorite scene there?
Oh man, there are so many great scenes throughout the movie, but I guess one of my favorite scenes is first that pops to my head is Rick Moranis as Lewis being interviewed by Egon, and he's saying, "I am Vince Glorthau. I am the Dominion of Gozer," and he's selling that so hard, it's so believable. His montage that he has, and he says it so straight and so believable that like you buy everything that he's saying. You don't need any more explanation than what he's telling you there, And he's giving you like everything that you need to know. He's telling you that like, they had to choose the form of a destructor, and the last time it came, it destroyed everybody, and he says, watch out. It's just hilarious.
Yeah,
the dialogue they give him too. He just nails it.
It's
one of my favorite scenes for sure.
Jamie, you have a favorite scene in the first Ghostbusters?
Yeah, so for Ghostbusters 1, I would say my favorite scene is the entire sequence when they get their first call and the whole cleaning up the town starts playing, and you see the car like kitted out for the first time, and then they arrive and it's just, hey, anyone see a ghost? And everyone just stares at them. Like I just love that entire sequence. The elevator ride up and pretty much car to elevator and it's just perfect. Like all
cool.
of that.
You got it. Like I would guess that 90% of what Bill Murray is saying was improvised, not written in the script, where he's just saying they're using a take, but he just blurts out whatever, and it just works. So that seems like a Bill Murray ad lib.
Oh yeah, Jason, what about you? Favorite scene?
My favorite scene, I don't know if it's a favorite, but it's the scene that comes to mind every time I think about Ghostbusters. And it's when Bill Murray, Venkman, like when Sigourney Weaver points him out, like, oh, It's him right there, and the way he's doing that weird the kick.
Oh, in the street. Oh yeah.
Little hopping around Lincoln Center.
Yeah.
I always think of that part. Like no matter any other part of the movie, that's the part I think about when something's up. Ghostbusters.
When she's coming out of practice.
Yeah, she's coming out of practice. She's talking to that the other.
That's
dude.
it. Yeah,
violinist.
But yeah, I love this idea of blue collar workers against ancient deities.
Yeah.
They're just like, we're here representing. You guys got to stop this right now.
Yeah. We demand you to go back to your dimension. Thank you.
There's a bunch of guys in jumpsuits.
They really have no clue what they're going to do when they get up there. They don't know what they're doing.
But besides the whole Bill Murray walking, one of my favorite moments going back to it is when they first turn on the suit and the pack in the elevator.
Right. They all slightly
they all back up.
I like that. It shows you how crazy what they're doing actually is.
And inexperienced too.
Yeah, and they just pretty much wreck the entire place.
Oh yeah.
And
here's the bill. $5,000.
I love in that also when he bills them, Egon's just casually telling the price the entire time. It's something you don't pick up unless you've watched it a million times.
And also
Egon's really weird, man.
Some of that stuff wasn't picked up earlier because
on the spectrum for sure.
It was such a widescreen film that when you watched it on VHS, it was a lot of pan and scan. So some of that stuff was totally cut out of the unletterboxed version because it's a very wide film.
Mm-hmm.
Max, what about yourself? What was your one of your favorite scenes in the film?
Weirdly enough, growing up, all my favorite scenes were the Sigourney Weaver stuff.
Oh, cool!
Just for the specific reason that I was a big Alien fan when I was a kid.
Of course, yep.
So seeing her in this weird two-pronged, almost two different characters but they're the same character kind of role, was just so mind-blowing for me. And she just gets to kind of just ham it up the whole movie.
Oh yeah, it shows her diversity for being an actor to go from such a serious role to such a comedy almost immediately after too. I mean, Sigourney Weaver to this day still remains one of my favorite actresses of all time. She really is that versatile.
She
with her
became
performance.
the queen of sci-fi, you know.
Yeah. But even that, just in general, she's a great actress.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm glad she came back for the new movie too, even if that was that small bit.
Yeah.
It was perfect though.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
totally. Yeah.
It was good to see the tables turned and him finally getting all.
Yeah.
Bankman's a jerk. I'm not surprised why someone wrote on his office door.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
You're introduced to him.
He's his first scene. He's already kind of creeping on this.
Then it's all written on his door. It's just he's
for sure.
What's your favorite scene or moment in Ghostbusters?
I'm going to have to go for a Rick Moranis moment. And it took years for me to kind of really see and notice and appreciate this little scene. It's the one scene where he's got the devil dog chasing him in the street and he's bashing on the window of a restaurant and he's just hitting on this window, grabbing for attention. His life is in peril, danger. And everybody stops and looks at him and he just drops down to the ground and they all just go back to eating their meals. I think that was just absolutely a brilliant little moment that sometimes can get lost in the human, in the humor of it all.
Those are the New York moments.
Yeah,
New York moments.
Completely. Yeah, for sure.
It's like that scene in Ninja Turtles when they're when Raph is chasing Casey Jones and then he tumbles over the cab and he's the guy riding was like, "What the hell was that?" And he's like, "Looked like a turtle in a trench coat."
Yeah.
You going to LaGuardia? It's crazy stuff happening in New York.
For sure.
And they've kind of done that gag in other 80s movies too, which makes me
every time something's in New York, there's always that crazy thing. It's it's New York.
They've got X-Men, they've got Spider-Man, they got.
But what I noticed about that part, what I noticed about that part, Brent, is that Rick Moranis is getting chased by this dog.
Yeah.
And then the people look and then they stop looking. I'm like, oh shit, is he the only one who sees it? Because he starts to go down. It's he's getting possessed by it. But then did everyone else in his party see it? I how
think
come the people at the restaurant don't? But the people at the party did.
I think the dog was just
too
far away from
no one was taking any notice. No one really cared.
Didn't even bother.
That's what happens when you go to New York. You gotta not pay attention to like most of what's happening.
Yeah, that's it.
Focus on yourself.
Yeah, you don't make eye contact with the crazy guy.
That's New York for sure. Crazy people.
That's one of like the best things about Ghostbusters is the sheer love letter to New York City that this movie also is. Even though like half the cast is from like Chicago or Canada, but like it is just the love letter to New York, and you don't get a more New York movie than Ghostbusters. I mean, like there's like lines towards the end.
And apparently, when they were filming it, they didn't have permits to film that's not background on the streets, other than the end final scene where it's background. But anything else on the street, they're in the park. That's all just normal.
They just did it guerrilla style.
New York.
Yeah.
I feel like
that is a thing they do. You know, like what's it? Midnight Cowboy with.
I'm walking.
That was like an actual. They were.
It's the same thing. It's like when they're coming out of the bank, and he's like, you sold my dad's house. You didn't, all that. That was just they just did that guerrilla, and those are just people just walking on the street and like.
I mean, famously, the Elf too was
the guy with the beard.
A lot of the B-roll in the Elf was filmed that way.
Elf.
So
it gives it a life for sure.
So steering it back towards Ghostbusters here, we all obviously enjoyed the first film. Something cool came out of this first movie that stuck with everybody to this day, nearly 40 years later, and that is the Ray Parker Jr. soundtrack for the Ghostbusters theme, which was the #1 hit. Such a great little piece. I mean, I've got a couple of clip images here from the music video.
If you guys see the music video, it's wild.
There's a bunch of cameos at the end of the movie.
It's just so
cameos. The cameos of all the actors.
The cameos of everyone who was famous at the time.
Chevy Chase, you got like
Lily Tomlin's in it.
I've got a couple of little edited down videos here. So this is look how cool this is. It's just like,
and
it was
back
so
in the 80s, that was like so cool.
Look,
the neon.
He's wearing this is for the first Ghostbusters, but he's wearing the updated jumpsuits from the second one.
Oh yeah, I actually
he's just wearing gray.
I don't know when this music
wearing
video was done. It was just it's just such a cool little little piece of trivia that kind of gets lost in between everything these days. People forget there was a full-on music video which rips scenes from the movie. I've
never forgotten that.
Oh, it's such a great little
them walking through. They based the intro to the cartoon on the music video. Like
when they're doing at the end.
Oh yeah.
And then Bill Murray gets spun around. Can't break dance, so they just spin him around.
Oh yeah.
So, like Ray Parker grabs his legs and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Because they're being silly. They're a bunch of comedians. They're being silly.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it was definitely fun.
Well, yeah.
So, would it surprise everybody to know that this actually wasn't the first and only rendition of the Ghostbusters? And in fact, back in 1975, Lou Schweimer, who was the creator from Filmation, actually had a live-action series that actually lasted for about 15 episodes. And this was actually called The Ghostbusters. Which
that's the reason I think they call Ghost Bashers.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, this actually came first,
but this is the Ghostbusters, not Ghostbusters ran together like one word type thing. So
right,
I don't think this is canon.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not canon to the Ghostbusters, but there was conflicts that went on with this series.
Basically, Scooby Doo.
It was very Scooby-Doo-ish.
Yeah.
So
scenarios.
They had a big monkey,
the dog, and
it was a monkey,
goofy
actually,
guy.
But,
an animal,
a
thumbed dog.
Yeah.
So this has nothing to do with the Ghostbusters movies. It just existed beforehand and was a big source of the name issue.
Correct. It was a source of the name issue, and there were complications at the time, especially when they worked into the animated series, because at the same time that the Ghostbusters became popular in 1984 from the movie, Lou Schweimer continued on to do an animated series based on his characters, again called Filmation's The Ghostbusters. And these particular cartoons, they only
But see here, they run together
episodes.
Ghostbusters like Ghostbusters. They don't call it the Ghostbusters.
Correct, but
that's on them. They're trying to make it more complicated.
No. But because they came first, it did create complications when
Abbott and
when
Costello
the studios
met Frankenstein came first, and that was your horror comedy.
Right, but what it created was complications because in the same year of 1986, the real Ghostbusters came out, and they actually had to call it the real Ghostbusters. That was the reason why it just wasn't called Ghostbusters. And that series went for it was 5 years. It went from 1986 to 1991, which is a testament to
how good it was.
It was just such a great series.
Was it that Dave Coulier played
for Bill part Murray? Of it in the later episodes?
So there was a couple of really great episodes I loved in the real Ghostbusters.
This is the most memorable episode for me by far. The Sis and Ghost. I mean, the two you're going to talk about are the most ones that stand out to me, but
the reason why that particular one was so memorable was it took place as a interviewer came in to interview Venkman, and it's a flashback story, and it tells you everything that happens immediately after the fight with Gozor in the battle, and the Ghostbusters get back, and they're so afraid of all this negative energy on their outfits because of the when they destroyed the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, that their suits become infected with ghost entities of themselves. And it actually was made for a really cool story. It was also the introduction of Slimer, who, was brought back as a continuing reoccurring character in the real Ghostbusters animated series as to why he stuck around. So they had some really cool concepts of that story. It was just such a strong tie-in.
It's like the one that gives you the tie-in to a movie and to a movie series. And it's like,
exactly,
it's the one that stands out that way, where it does tie it in, because they show them wearing the older suits. They change them in, and they get the different colors.
They get in their brains.
It was the connective tissue to the first movie.
No, for sure. And the other one that kind of stood out because it was just a favorite concept and was mind-blowing was a season 2 episode called No One Comes to Lupusville. And it was the idea that they get pulled out and to a mission by some random character, and they end up in a town where they get themselves captured, discovered that the townsfolk are being held captive in the basements by vampires. But the vampires were holding them there for a reason, and that is discovered at the end. The Ghostbusters release the townspeople, only to discover the townspeople are actually werewolves. And when the Ghostbusters discover this, they take off out of town. And the comment came up, what happens when a werewolf bites a vampire and a vampire bites a werewolf? And you suddenly end up with this element of all the townspeople are fighting each other with the werewolves.
Right.
And you end up with were-vampires that were half werewolf and half vampire. And it was just, as a kid, it was so mind-blowing as a concept that it just blew me away.
I clearly remember that one.
Well, you'd think a town called Lupusville, you'd probably figure it out.
As they mentioned specifically in the episode, based on the wolf. And strange enough, the episodes were written by Michael J. Straczynski, who surprisingly became one of my favorite writers because he dated back from the He-Man series right through to Babylon 5 to other stuff. And I've followed his work through my whole life, surprisingly. But he wrote some of the best real Ghostbusters episodes out there.
I didn't realize that.
Which were a lot of fun. And then, just other quick mentions. These were just some fun other episodes that were really on the top list. Knock Knock is a good one. Station identification, where they end up in the alternate world kind of thing.
I remember that.
This one was probably one of the most scariest ones possible. The Boogeyman Cometh. It was psychologically scary as a story.
Yeah.
And then we had another cool Halloween Was Forever. So they had some really cool, very cool, even to this day, some of the best stories of animation that you could get within a 1980s kind of animation story arc telling.
And the toy line that went along with it continued for all those seasons, and they had some great figures and great toys in that line, which is.
I remember my slime would always get stuck in their laser pack.
Oh yeah, and
it came with like a little vial of slime
for sure.
And the little containers you could buy.
Right. Oh yeah, that's it. Yes.
Colors.
But the last thing I'll say about the animated stuff was this is the scene that was at the end credits of the real Ghostbusters here. And then we end up by getting this from the music video, which is the same kind of moves as
you missed
the animated.
Best part. You skipped the best part where Slimer makes them slip. You cut it off right before that happened. Yeah,
but it was kind of cool that they made a
just
fun
riding
reference.
that Ghostbusters train, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
Like the hype of that first one,
absolutely.
phenomenon.
Yeah,
naturally
cool.
you get your TV shows, and your toys.
And then from the animated series, they kind of kitted it up and family friendly. Then they go into Ghostbusters Part 2.
Yeah,
which is obviously, you're more 90s, more family friendly, film.
Jason, you up for going into a little detail?
Yeah, I don't know how I ended up stuck with Ghostbusters 2.
It wasn't.
I was pretty
it's
vocal.
The one you saw in the theater.
I was pretty vocal about how much I don't like that one.
Right, that's okay. It's okay.
But
that's fine.
Yes,
it was the one I saw. Give us all something to talk about. The beginning.
It was the one I saw in the theaters. I was genuinely. I thought it was scarier than the first one. Because that painting guy, he just looks so creepy. I remember it was the hype of Ghostbusters got us really excited about this one. For me, it fell victim to the whole curse of the sequel, in my opinion.
Right.
But like most sequels are just this way.
Yeah.
It does the same thing the first one does, but bigger.
Right.
Like your Home Alone 2s or stuff like that.
They have a real budget.
Exact.
They're given a real budget to do more, and they become.
And then you just have like a mad budget. So
but also,
like, all right, but we need a giant,
making it more family friendly, making it more.
So now we have this kid.
Reach more markets.
Now we have this kid. Where does this kid come from?
Kid?
The baby? You mean
the baby? That was another trope of the early when you had like. Look who's talking and
so they wanted to include like,
and,
like look who's talking is famous and so was like I don't know,
it was a baby thing of the 90s.
Yeah, so they were just she just has a baby for some reason. And I don't know, man. I went back and watched this fairly recently, and it just after having the first one fresh in my head and just being such a huge fan of that, it's really hard to go back to this one because like it's just, and I gotta commend the Ghostbusters Afterlife for not referencing it at all.
Very little,
except for very little. Not at all, except for Ray's Bookshop is the one thing. That is referenced from it, and that says a lot. And I think that they're like, forget about the ooze.
The walking.
Another thing is the toaster that they bring to life is in Egon's Space. That's another.
Oh, really?
One other thing. That is
just like in the background.
A reference to the second movie. But those are the only two things. Ray's Bookstore and that toaster that comes to life, which now you could turn things into ghosts. Right. It's like, oh, this ooze from the positivity of New Yorkers will suppress this. It's weird, man. And then they bring the Statue of Liberty to life.
That's probably the worst part of Part 2 is the walking Statue of Liberty.
Yeah,
and that's you to think like
one really that just.
It's memorable though.
It's memorable.
Barely, and on top of that, Bobby Brown's all over the place.
Oh yeah, yes. Well, that's where the soundtrack took a dip. I agree.
You gotta come in.
The hype was so high. I mean, you killed the franchise with the sequel.
The sequel montage was not as good as the first sequel. The first movie's montage.
Yeah. Oh, and what's his name? What's that one weird guy? The curator.
Janos.
Vigo.
Yeah.
Janos.
Yeah.
What is that accent?
The Upper West Side.
I thought it was great.
The Upper West Side.
What's weird is he's the nanny ghost too.
Oh my god, that is the weirdest scene possibly in a movie ever. Like,
I know
what is
no
that
one
suddenly?
really, no one really understands
wait,
what's going on there.
So
Jenny,
no one really gets it. I don't get that scene. I don't. Why is he? Why is he the nanny ghost?
To me
He's
this.
not.
Do you want me to spin a positive bit into this script?
Yes.
So let's hear Jamie's perspective.
Okay. It is like dreadful, but it is also my favorite sequel probably of like all time for sequels, because like it's part of it, and you just gotta respect it in that sense. But like I guess like just to like keep the positiveness about Ghostbusters 2. My like favorite like bit of it is also kind of like the worst bit, but I love the scene when Egon, Winston, and Ray go investigating the subway tunnels, and is Winston with them? Yeah, and they're down in the slime when they're literally looking at like they hear the train. And then the train just goes by.
It just goes through
and
Winston,
straight through him, and then and then there's a bunch of severed heads, which makes it the weirdest scene possible. So it no sense. But so it's this hilarious ghost train. Sorry, I missed it, and then severed heads. It's
funny.
good, but it's weird.
Yeah, I like the idea of Rick Moranis turning into a Ghostbuster, you know. And again,
make good decisions, running around.
Yeah,
like it's silly to think about. I feel like there's like a lot of stupid lines from Ghostbusters 2 that I just like say like a lot that I don't realize a lot. Like Lewis yelling, "Make good decisions" as he's like running down the street in the Ghostbuster gear. Like Janosch like trying to like get like the baby's attention, just going, "Woo! I wooed." Did you hear me? I wooed. Like I will literally say that like, all the time. Be like, "Hey, did you hear me?" But
all the blackness. Well, come in. Come inside.
I want you to know this is very bad. I want you to know this.
What you're doing is very bad. Yeah.
So, Max, what was your impressions of Ghostbusters 2 there?
I think honestly, it's highly controversial. I think Ghostbusters 2 has one of the best movie logos of all time.
Okay,
that's really controversial.
Whoa,
very controversial.
Whoa, that's controversial.
Just for 1 second.
It's
He's gonna leave.
It's 2.
I know, but it tells you everything you need to know.
That is
part 2.
You got
is
a good point.
Piece? Is he saying it's number 2?
If so it's like it's better than X-Men's Wolverine only.
This is my jacket that I got.
Does it make sense for it to be on the Ecto 1 with a 2? When he says we're back, do they have to go get patches that say 2 on it?
This is what I mean by the total retconning
their car and put
the fact that they show the old car is like they retconned the second one.
Yeah,
right. But just remember,
did he change it back?
Peace Up sign was a big part of the 80s too. So you kind of consider it was referring to 2, but it was a double. It was a double meaning. It was like, hey,
thing,
it was, but in the 80s, it was also considered, like, hey, how's it going?
Radical.
No, yeah, well, almost, yeah. It made a comeback in the 80s. I should know. I grew up in the 80s. It was like one of those things. But yeah, this whole thing of 2 was. But
I think it's totally retconned. The car, the Ecto 1's still the same, so
yeah,
it means like Egon changed it back.
Yeah,
there was a couple of things.
That's a good point. Yeah. That is a really clever way of showing a sequel.
Yeah.
Especially, but not many movies have like a character as its logo.
Right.
For sure.
They did take advantage of them having like the logo having hands.
Yeah.
I always thought that was really clever.
Yeah.
It feels like everything you need to know about the movie, like with just that picture. Like it's the second Ghostbusters.
Yeah. Actually, a cool thing happened a few weeks ago. I actually picked up the soundtrack for Ghostbusters 2.
Oh, so you're a fan of
you know what? I love the music.
This is the instrumental.
I did love the score.
The music soundtrack.
I love the score in the second one more than I did in the first one, surprisingly. I thought the score had a great little jingle to it, especially in the heroic moments. We see that in the courtroom, which is probably one of my favorite scenes.
Courtroom's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It is a cool moment. Just
electric chair ghosts.
Yeah.
Brothers.
That's it. Yeah. It made that great little comeback of like who they were, what they had lost. And we saw that at the beginning of the film, only to see them make this great comeback at the courtroom scene. And that was what kind of I did like about Ghostbusters 2 a lot. I enjoyed that. And I going back to what Max said earlier, I think it was, I loved Louis Tully, becoming the the next Ghostbuster kind of thing, especially that heroic moment he gets at the end when he goes and blasts the shell around the library or whatever, and everyone thinks he did it, and it was just like, no, it was the guys on the inside. And it was just this great little moment of like, yes, he gets a great scene.
His character was going to be John Candy in the first one.
In the first one,
I had read that. Yeah,
and John Candy was going to play it with a Swedish accent.
Yeah. He wouldn't have like Doberman Pinschers or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, my favorite of part 2 is, I think, just the beginning leading up to the courtroom scene where you're getting to see where all these characters are. I like the
cameo from Jason Reitman.
I like the scenes that's showing them, okay, like this is where they're at. I like the Bill Murray doing the the talk show host of his World of the Psychic, and Egon in his lab where he's like, let's see what happens when we take away the puppy, whatever he's doing. Those scenes are very cool. Character based, and then you get into Ray owning the bookshop, and that's where you actually those are where you get the characters of like what you missed from the first one, where it's more character based and they're just in their characters. So I really like the opening, the first 30 minutes of the movie is probably my favorite.
One of the other scenes, which was also a great little scene, is it's just Ray and Winston are there doing the Ghostbusters birthday party, and the kid goes, "I was expecting He-Man," and I'm just sitting there cracking up because I'm also a huge avid He-Man fan, and just the fact that
but kids didn't like He-Man at that point.
Kids had moved on from He-Man.
They would have been like, if it was really current, they're like, "Oh man, I thought this was Batman."
Yeah, exactly.
No,
but
Michael
it was
Keaton?
still,
oh man,
it was still a great.
Well, I think Batman just came out that year.
I know the same year.
Because they both
that's before the Batman sensation.
Yeah,
summer of, I guess would be.
Sure.
But yeah, it's that's the second one, man. It exists.
Oh yeah. Well, from there we kind of hit Ghostbusters, the video game, which came out in 2000,
which is canon.
Which is canon
and has all the original actors in it. All the voices.
It's canon the same way the Matrix video game is.
Yeah. Right. Well, what we'll do is we'll have Max kind of go through, since he's played the game quite a bit recently.
Stay Puft's my favorite thing in the entire world.
Max, what can you tell us, especially those of us that don't know anything about the video game?
So the Ghostbusters, the video game, is semi-canon. I'll start it off with that. It is semi. They don't reference it in the new movie, but the new movie kind of breaks the plot. The ultimate plot of the movie isn't really. It's mostly about the Ghostbusters kind of learning that they're setting up they're setting up all these other Ghostbusting locations, and that's their idea. They want to start a new Ghostbusting team.
Okay.
With other people, basically. That's the short of it.
Right.
And you play as a unnamed protagonist, the new guy, and you're helping them kind of learn the ropes. And it follows. It goes through very familiar locations like libraries, the city, and familiar characters like Slimer and Stay Puft, and you have all four Ghostbusters with you.
That's cool.
What were you gonna say?
I'm going blank on his name now. The investigator of the EPA, Walter Peck.
Dickless.
Okay.
He comes back. Yeah, Dickless.
Dickless.
he comes back and he gets possessed. You have to actually fight Walter Peck as a.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Jamie, I'm going to throw it out. You're a bit of a gamer. Have you ever played this game before?
So, a funny story about the Ghostbusters video game. So, like I mentioned earlier in the video already, I danced and that was it when I was a kid. I didn't even play video games. I played the computer games and that was it. But the Ghostbusters video game, again, this was very early high school for me. This was one of my first introduction to video games, because it just happened to be, hey, new Ghostbusters content. Hey, it's a video game. Let's learn about it. And then this game kind of kickstarted me being more into video games in general, which is wild to think about.
That's funny.
But I remember very vividly that there were Doritos everywhere in this game. There's a big product placement with Doritos, trucks and vending machines everywhere.
Oh, wow.
I vividly remember that. And yeah, I loved being Rookie. It was great.
That's cool. And Jason, what about yourself? You ever played it?
Never played it.
Okay, same here, but I'm not a gamer, so yeah.
I'm not a big gamer myself, but it's like very. Sometimes games come along where like I gotta play this. I went out of my way, I think, to get a PlayStation 360 or whatever at that time just so I could play that game.
Right.
So it's every once in a while a game comes along where like I gotta play that somehow. The Spider-Man.
I want a game recently. So bad,
it's like it has to be.
But I don't allow myself.
Right.
Yeah.
It's an addiction.
Yeah.
Anything else to add to that game, Max? Anything interesting?
I got enough of those.
It's a cool game. It's got a lot of fun Ghostbusting.
Did you finish the game like recently?
Like a month ago.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of familiar faces in the game, which makes the game, a lot of fan service, cool moments in it.
Right.
Especially with the gameplay. You upgrade your what's it called? The plasma proton pack.
Proton packs. Yeah. That's cool.
And just the throw of like throwing the proton and like getting the feel that in gameplay is really fun to be able to like
feel like
feel
like how it
looks because it rumbles and you can see like you're trying to like aim your stream and rope them up or whatever.
I always thought that would be really hard. Like in real life, they make it look really tough.
They make it look really hard. Like which is one thing in the afterlife. These kids would barely be able to hold on to these proton blasters or whatever. But yeah.
That's cool.
And you're using your PKE device to look around for ghosts, which is
cool too.
Fun.
Yeah. It's all dark and it's
the actual PKE meter shows up in tons of movies in the 80s. You guys ever notice?
Yeah,
it's in like at least 3 other movies.
I used to remember there was a device that they used. I can't remember what it is, but it's kind of like the
actual prop itself.
Yeah, it was the handle of something. Before it turned like that, it's kind of like
because it was like it was some type of controller or something,
Yeah, that's it. Was it a remote control or something? Yeah,
something like that. But Mr. Fusion is like a coffee grinder, and you can see it in Alien. It's on the wall of in the Alien's.
Or the ice cream maker in Empire Strikes Back.
Right. There's some of those just items that they looked futuristic, so they painted them and did something up to it. That's funny.
Well, let's take us to the next film that came out after that, which was Ghostbusters 2016, and Jamie has graciously volunteered.
I'll volunteer for it. Like I have a few personal stories with Ghostbusters 2016.
Oh, totally.
So,
go for it. Yeah.
I mean, like that's why I'll chat about it. So, Ghostbusters 2016 is when it came out. It's also known as Ghostbusters Answer the Call. So this is the one that Paul Feig directed, and it starred the 4 women. So Kristen Wiig, Leslie Jones, Kate McKinnon, and Melissa McCarthy were the 4 Ghostbusters, and this was a full reboot of the franchise.
At least they do everything other than the logo.
I have a lot of thoughts about it.
SNL.
So I mean, like I think
Saturday Night Live.
So the vibe they were going for was all right, but I'll launch right into this bit. People who talk to me like know that this is my biggest gripe with it. Ghostbusters Answer the Call takes place in New York City. Yep. They filmed it in Boston. And I'm from that area.
Boston,
and so this was my senior. This is my senior year of college when they filmed it. So there was a lot of like locations like I knew that they were like filming around at, and like it's so obvious to me that it is in Boston, and it utterly ruins it for me. And then the entire back half of the movie also ruins it for me. But
I haven't heard that take before, but that's kind of cool.
I can see that taking out a lot of it because New York is a character in itself. It's like the city is part of Ghostbusters. So
like the
1 and 2.
The college that they have for Ghostbusters 2016, that is my friend's old high school. And so he's I can't see it. Their headquarters is a Chinese restaurant that I go by almost every single time in Chinatown when I go into Boston. And it's just like, there that is. Where they filmed the entire end sequence. And so it's obviously like CG'd and they go to the hotel and whatnot. They actually filmed that in abandoned empty lot near my old apartment.
Oh wow. So everything was right. That's crazy.
Very, very close to where I lived. And it just boggles my mind. They also, with this, since it was a reboot, you could have so easily just made it we could have a franchise in every major city. Venkman says that in the first movie. They could have so easily just said, hey, these guys in the 80s did this.
Guys,
let's try and do it ourselves. And they could have just done that. They could have just done that. And that's my take on Ghostbusters 2016. It's a good movie. If you like Paul Feig movies, and like I do, because like I love Bridesmaids, I love Spy, and like I love all of his stuff. Like it's a good movie, but it really kind of falls apart towards the end, and it's not Ghostbusters.
And it's just not Ghostbusters. It's just
I just forgot what it was trying to be.
It's just not. I mean, down to the tech of Ghostbusters and down the language, language of Ghostbusters, and just all the the care that they take into like spiritual entities and like the afterlife, the ghosts themselves. It's just not the same thing.
My two biggest gripes with the film is definitely not the cast. I thought the ladies were fantastic.
I loved all of them.
The best they could do with the material they were given. And that became my first problem, was the script was not a great script. I just felt like it had lots of issues of structure and everything like that. But the second problem I had was, the ghosts, the entities were way too fluorescent and over the top compared to what the original Ghostbusters were. So it took me out of the film a lot visually too, because it was over
the designs of the ghosts were
It was trying to be a modern movie, a modern comedy, but trying to make it an 80s weird comedy at the same time.
The humor of it was way too silly, and like neither. I mean, just not. That's there were like fart jokes and that type of stuff in it. It just was just like
Well, they took a formula that works for a lot of things,
but not.
Thought that if you have the Ghostbusters connected to this will appeal a lot, but the Ghostbusters has such a solid fan base that you got a lot of backlash from it. Like if they did this with like something that we didn't care about so much, it would have probably done fine. But you're playing with a very like sacred property here.
It seems that way, doesn't it?
So that's why a lot of people, it's a huge backlash, right?
At the time when it came out, it literally was all we were getting, though. So it was just like, all right, we're just gonna make the best of this and try to do what we do. Like I literally made like a Ghostbusters 2016 jacket and everything to wear to it. It still exists.
Cool. Awesome.
And like I rocked it. I rocked it to the new Afterlife premiere, and I was like, great, I can retire this thing officially now. It was a good look. I mean, like, but aside from like Leslie Jones working in like the MTA booth, which is very clearly a booth for the tea. Don't get me started.
It's
like
so hard for you.
It's the worst.
That's hysterical.
It's
anyone from Boston must be like, oh.
No one else cares. I'm the only person who cares. Like everyone, my friends, they don't care. They're like, Jamie, you're nuts. Like, just relax.
No,
it's
not New York. It's like, it's just not the same thing.
That makes sense.
That sounds kind of blasphemous, almost. To both cities.
Really, for them not to film it in New York just doesn't make any sense.
They just did like random pickup shots towards the end for like exteriors. It's just like
thing.
I think it was definitely a cost thing because they didn't have much writing on it. They went into it not writing very much on it, so to shoot in New York is so expensive.
Stars. And plus, they were all superstars at the time, and you got a Hemsworth.
Like
on top of
that was also the weirdest thing.
Weirdest thing. Why get a hunky guy and try to make him act like he's the dumb hunky guy? It's like,
but he's so ridiculous.
Like so dumb. Like, come on, what's wrong?
But he was so ridiculously over the top dumb that it just pulled me right out of that.
Which is weird, because like, people say, "Oh, you don't like it because it's the female Ghostbusters," but they're also making like some dumb hot guy in the movie with like a stereotypical dumb hot guy.
It doesn't make sense.
I will say my favorite scene in the movie though is when they're at like a concert trying to, I don't know what the crux of that was, but they're looking for whatever's happened with the ghosts, and there's mannequins. And Leslie Jones is walking around, and one just kind of walks up behind her, and she looks around, and then she does the whole hell no, and then it chases her down the hall. Terrifying, but really funny at the same time.
There was only a few scenes that happened like that. Again, I thought the actresses were fantastic with the roles that they could play with the material that was given to them, but at the same time, overall,
this is a different type of comedy than the original was, which was very subtle.
I want to
like this the style of comedy they did for this is a lot of ad lib. Like just the way they film stuff.
I don't know. I thought they
post Apatow kind of just like run with it. and then we'll pick like the good stuff. And
didn't
they
they
just keep going?
A lot of the original Ghostbusters film? I thought there was a bit of ad-libbing going on in that.
Yeah, but not in the level, not in the Apatow level that they have these days.
Okay, fair enough.
And not I mean those guys are better ad-libbers when they're like ad-libbing in character and like giving still ad-libbing but smartly according to the script and like just not making just whatever. The cat in the bag, and they're talking about there's a big cat in the bag, and letting the cat out of the bag. You're like, oh my god, how long is it going to continue? Like,
it runs forever.
It's not funny.
Like,
it's not like
you know?
It's not the same thing as yes, it's true.
I think we're finally fizzing out of that era of comedy, you know, because like this was a result of like your 40-year-old virgins and your
it was his hands
era and your bridesmaids. But that's just the style of like filming comedies for like the I don't know early 2010s, mid 2010s, which is a time now. Thought that was just like last year.
Sure.
Yeah, me figuring out that I've had this jacket for like 5 years now. I'm just like,
it's crazy.
Like, oh,
it's crazy.
Wow. So
what?
Jacket would have finished high school already.
That was my senior year of college, and I was like, what? I had a mental crisis over here.
So one last quick thing I thought about. What's everyone's thoughts about the cameo roles by the original Ghostbusters in this film?
My take, they didn't need to do it because if they said, hey, these guys in the 80s did this thing, it would have been fixed. I thought
it's pointless for them to be in it. It's almost like it's only a draw to get people to want to see the movie, to see those people in the movie, although they don't play it. You know,
it felt like an obligation.
An obligation. I'm sure they are.
That's what it seemed like. It's like, I guess we have to. And like, I don't know how they felt about the movie at all or anything.
Yeah, they probably paid them like lots of money just to be.
That's why they could only afford to film in Boston. Because they got Bill Murray.
One day on set, and they get like like $20 million or something, or $10 million.
Bill Murray said, "Yes, we have to film in Boston."
Fun fact though, in general, guys, Boston does have a really good like filming industry.
Bill Murray's like, I'm not film in Boston. I'm not going anywhere. I want to walk to set, Bill Murray said, so he's like, you guys film.
That's funny.
Oh yeah, I heard he's very difficult.
Yeah.
Even in the first Ghostbusters, he was
apparently I'm sorry, we'll go back to that real quick. He's so unpredictable that they didn't know if he was going to show up to be in the movie until
I had read that.
The day that they started filming. They like had put out the call sheet, and they're like, well, we hope he's going to be there. He was in Paris, and then he just shows up like at location on the first day. He's like, let's make a movie.
That leads us up to last month when we all got this wonderful little piece of gem, Ghostbusters Afterlife. Elijah, we'll take it back to you.
Well, we were obviously waiting for Afterlife for a long time. I mean, we're waiting for another Ghostbusters movie, and I'm glad it finally came. Got Ghostbusters Afterlife. I think it's a great movie. I really enjoyed it. I think it's great for a family film for everyone to enjoy. I did have my little things I didn't like about it, which we can go into. But I did have a lot of fun watching it. I saw it twice and enjoyed it both times. And just, there's obviously stuff that's in there for Ghostbusters fans just to be in there. But it was really good. There was a lot of heart into it, and I can see it being a nice setup for more movies to come, which could even be better than this one. So I'm pretty psyched and very happy about this movie. Although there were other things I didn't like, which I'm sure I'll get into. But,
so Max, what was your thoughts on this film?
I loved it. The one thing that worried me going into it was the casting, but I thought the casting in the movie played out fantastically. The children were great. Oh, she was great, and
she was
awesome. Great. She was like
so
good.
McKean Grace, her name is. Yeah, she was awesome.
She also sang the song at the end credits too.
Really? Was that her?
Yeah, that's her.
Oh, we were joking.
Wait, what?
That. Oh my god.
Yeah, McKenna Grace sang the song in the credits. So the
I did not know that. Oh my god, I didn't know that. Oh wow.
Yeah. I was joking with my other friend about that song. Like that just shows out of nowhere. Like
So Max, go on.
Pop music on all of them, you know. So.
Yeah. No, the movie was it was great. There's a lot of stuff to really like in the movie. There's a lot of fan servicey stuff, but there's also a lot of new stuff that I thought really helped it. There was stuff like Paul Rudd's character being a fan of the Ghostbusters. really opened up the world a little bit to show that there's some nerds out there that really are into these Ghostbusters.
Yeah, he represented us.
Yeah,
exactly.
You know, he was.
I thought it was kind of interesting that he's like the only one that really did know referred to the Ghostbusters, which I thought was kind of strange. I thought it would have been nicer if
it's just him and kids, and the only other adult he interacts with is like a daughter of a Ghostbuster.
But even the guy at the hardware shop was like, "Oh yeah, he used to order a bunch of weird stuff." Like, you know, if that's his best customer, you're like, "Hey, that's Egon Spengler of the Ghostbusters." You think if they're that well known that some people would know. You know,
it's kind of like it looks
Egon.
like the fandom for Ghostbusters in the world where Ghostbusters
in that world died off.
Is similar to the fandom of the movie in our world. You know,
Oh, okay.
Not everyone's gonna be excited about Ghostbusters.
Right.
Like, I really liked that movie.
but you'll have a few people who are like, "Oh, dude, that was amazing. That's so cool." That this happened in New York during the 80s, but most people
what is that, replica?
What?
Most people would pass. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But that also implies that there are replicas out there, and there are fans doing all this
fans
stuff. Cosplaying as actual existing people.
So Jamie, your impressions on this movie?
I loved this movie. Like I wasn't expecting us to ever actually get a continuation of the originals, like ever, not in my lifetime, ever. Yeah. So I was so over the moon for this. And
it was definitely
going into it, like I wasn't expecting it. I don't know. Obviously, we're gonna jump into spoilers here for Afterlife,
actually,
right?
We can
we actually let's do this right now, everybody. We're gonna put up a spoiler because we really are gonna go into detail about this film. And we're going to break it down, but go ahead, Jamie.
Okay. I didn't want to jump into it so soon, but I will. So I going into it, like obviously Harold Ramis had passed away, and we knew that was going to be something that they had to deal with within the movie for Egon. And for some reason, I wasn't thinking of this. No one I talked to was thinking of this. But make him a ghost. Like, it seems like such an obvious thing to do. Yeah. But it was so unexpected at the same time.
I was totally expecting that. I was like, for sure that's what was going to happen. Yeah.
Like the moment, like he starts like interacting, like way before you see him, like you knew immediately what it was. Yeah. But like it was just so unexpected. Like I
thought that was going to be it for that character. I thought, okay, this is a nice homage. We don't see the face is in shadow, and we don't see an actor.
I just lost it. Like it was with Afterlife. I keep comparing it to The Force Awakens in the sense of you had to tie up this story, but you also had to continue and build something new.
Include the nostalgia.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah. So you finish up your original story, but then you have to build on everything else, and you can build from there. And there's so much potential opened up like with this movie that they just literally with just like the very last scene. There's just so much that they could do.
Open-ended, very.
It was also it was Egon's unfinished business as well,
right.
You know, and that was great to see because he did
what a ghost did what a ghost does.
Yeah,
he does what ghosts do.
Then he managed to resolve it and move on, and I thought that was a beautiful, absolute, wonderful tribute to, you know, Harold Ramis and that Jason.
And the choice of how to age him wasn't an aged Harold Ramis, though. It was aged Egon.
Yes,
like he didn't get all thick
Egon,
like the actor did. You know, it's like
if
you grabbed him from the 80s and then aged him, and nothing else happened to him.
Right.
And then they did really
beautiful blend going between, and I like the fact that there was no dialogue. He didn't have to speak.
Yeah, no,
the emotion was in the
because most things that came out of his mouth were weird anyways. So I wouldn't want him to talk.
I'm glad they.
He looks at him and like.
From what I heard, Ivan Reitman stood in for Harold Ramis during those ghost scenes.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
When it was the four of them,
there was already an OG guy there.
Ivan Reitman like standing in for where he's.
That's really cool.
Wow.
If he like turns to them, he's like, "I collect molds and spores."
That made my like heart stop though. You see the spores, molds, and fungus.
Like,
oh my god!
God. This is a whole new thing. My thoughts on the whole thing is like. The whole reboot, or like a soft reboot, I must say, because it's all still canon, I guess. That's what it's considered, a soft reboot, kind of, I guess. Yeah. This is a new genre of movie coming out for specifically our generation and people in our surrounding generations, where movies were such a huge part of our upbringing that like they have been coming full circle and coming back to us. So there's certain beats you got to hit, but at the same time with a blanket of like nostalgia and comfort in that property that you're used to. So like if anything, instead of like what we ended up with in 2016 was just a mashup and like kind of just a hodgepodge and like slap the sticker on it. And here, what do you think? It's Ghostbusters, but it's the new kind of Ghostbusters. You know, we're doing stuff we're doing today, but with
we're making it hip. We're making it 2020.
But we've learned that it takes more than that. And so what, like, I guess when you give it to someone who has watched it and has been a part of it, say like the son of a director.
Like, let's talk about
who's there as like as kind of like the the connection to like the first one. And we learned that we want to tribute to what we fell in love with. At the same time, we also want something new but still feels the same. And so you're gonna get like something that hits all the beats but in like a very clever way and very subtle, because we don't, after our scary movies, we're done with being over the top these days. Like if you're gonna spend a lot of time on, if you want something really intense, it's gonna be an action scene, but like everything delivered to you needs a layer of subtlety to kind of help ground it, and like substance. The original was, and give it some substance.
For sure.
So this Ghostbusters I see is a good execution of this new genre of nostalgic delivery methods.
For sure.
Like Jamie's point of Force Awakens is a perfect like comparison to this, because that is exactly the formula
reboot,
that they started.
They're still giving you enough, or maybe a little bit more than what you want from.
I'd say like a Tron legacy.
That would also fall under this, I'd say.
Because there's a huge respect.
Still changing it.
But not only just a callback, but like a huge respect from the source material, and making sure it's stuff for the fans. I kind of built for the fans, so I think this was a perfect, just alignment of all of that stuff that needs to be like a good nostalgic movie,
right?
So because it was everything the Star Wars, or it's everything that the original Ghostbusters was. But then they included the emotion in it, because that is just something that's been caked on there after all the years of nostalgia that we've had in it.
Right.
Yeah, it's way more personal.
That's great.
It
is because it's personal to us.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so like that is something that like original Ghostbusters didn't have, because it couldn't have. Like there was no reference to something that we had, But now that there is, because of original Ghostbusters and how we feel for it, now we have this like nice emotional moment.
Even seeing Janine at the beginning when Janine first walks in, I'm like, eyes are watering up. I'm like, and just her attitude, and like, it was Janine. It's like,
and it makes sense, like the way they feel about everything, and stuff, But I thought it was great. I had a great time. I got emotional at the end. I got verklempt.
So Elijah, you mentioned that there was some stuff that didn't work for you. I'm curious as to what that is.
I mean, they're just, there's some dialogue stuff that I thought was a little bit strange. There's some callbacks that I thought were like a little too on the nose or too unnecessary, or linger too long.
What dialogue?
What is dialogue? Yeah, now I'm curious.
Dialogue. I mean,
drop some examples.
Well, I mean, just the phone call with Ray when you get caught up to speed, and you're like, the first thing he says, "Oh, Egon can rot in hell." You're like, what? Like, I think.
Well, he did just run away with everything.
I know.
I'm not surprised.
But with that, if he says he ran away with everything, he took everything, then. He took everything, then he doesn't have any stuff. So later on in the movie, where do they get their proton packs from?
Like, that's true.
Fair enough.
Some plot holes.
No, there are some plot holes, and it feels like this movie has scenes that were cut out, because at the end of the movie, the Ghostbusters just literally show up out of nowhere. Like, I saw the movie twice. With gear, and they're just there. It's just, you hear the voice of Bill Murray, you turn around and 3 of them are there. You're like, wait a minute. you're inside.
Did that really matter to you in the moment, though?
It did. It did. I'm like, where did
really?
Yes, like where did they come from? And you see that like earlier in the movie, if Egon took the proton packs, he set up the proton packs inside that castle, so that like when the entities are trying to come out, the four would all blast at the same time, and those four that were there would cross the streams and then send them back down or whatever. So then the kids have another 2 proton packs. They show up with 3 proton packs.
Yeah.
I'm just saying there was verbal stuff like that. That's just one example where he's like, he took everything and then they have more tech, and it just, if Ray, the heart of the Ghostbusters, is saying that he didn't believe what Egon was telling him, that to me feels off. Like anybody,
I doubt Ray wouldn't believe it. Ray believes most things,
right? And if he's like, hey, Ray, I found the mountain where Ivor Shandor was taking the metal to build.
Why didn't Egon explain it to anyone?
Like
he's too scared.
Maybe that's what happened. Maybe that's what happened. Is Egon straight up didn't explain it to anybody? He was just like, I gotta do this by myself.
He's a weird guy.
I didn't really get that, and Ray would be the one that would totally like believe him. And another thing, we brought back to Revelations 6:12 or whatever, and that's something that Ray and Winston were talking about in the first movie, driving back on their own. So I think it's kind of funny that they have that as like what Egon had in front of his, that he was about the end of the world. That part doesn't link up to me why Ray wouldn't. They could have just changed that in a dialogue.
That makes sense.
The plot
makes sense.
The storyline and everything makes sense, but just there were things in that scene where just like, well, that doesn't make sense. And he says that they lost the firehouse and it turned to a Starbucks. And then
but it's not a Starbucks.
Then at the end, that was
not a Starbucks.
I think he was being dramatic.
I know, but it's not. But it's not played. It wasn't played like that. He was saying we lost it like to Tribeca, and the firehouse became a Starbucks. But he's saying it like,
and they didn't really
look
through it.
That's fair.
Right, little things like that just. Were just
being cleaned up in the dialogue is what you're saying.
Little things like that prevented this movie from being perfect.
I mean,
but it was so close to perfect for me. I let those plot holes go through because I enjoyed what was going on.
And another thing I wish is that like they're finding all this stuff. It would have been to explain some of the tech and the history of like all of this stuff. I thought it would have been like. It should have been in there. I don't know why it's not. Where like Egon was working on some sort of new book, Ghostbusters manual, or like the Tobin Spirit Guide written by Egon Spengler, where it would give all the information in there. What's a proton pack? What's the containment? What's all of this stuff? Like a manual that like would be needed for this tech. It seems like that would be written somewhere. And if the kids had that, then they would be like, oh, we kind of know what this stuff is. They just start. They use the proton pack too easily. They just find Muncher. Like,
I was fine with that. I mean, I know. There's an on switch. The kids.
It's an on switch but they just go
and they had Paul Rudd walk them through what the stuff was because he was a nerd about it. So.
That's cool. But like, if they're in Egon's place, it seems like even just showing them holding on to some. That would give it to me a little bit more connection. So I think in this movie there's some cutout scenes.
I think she's they've expressed that they're pretty competent children.
Right. But I think there's some cutout scenes that
really smart.
Link stuff together.
When they introduce the girl, she's like smart and like
she is
smart.
Stuff.
Which I mean obviously.
So I'm not surprised. It didn't shock me when she figured out how to use this stuff.
Let's talk about the kids for a moment. I mean,
one more thing.
Oh, sorry. Oh, okay. All right.
That I have to bring in, and then we can talk about it later. But like. Literally, there was zero reason for the mini puffs.
No reason.
Story-wise,
no
reason for those.
No reason for other than the fact that I want to see them.
That you want to see them, and if you watch the movie, it literally seems like an added-in scene because he goes in for ice cream, and then it walks out of screen, and then the next scene he's walking into screen, and there's like
you needed
a scene with.
We needed something. We needed podcast to be occupied in the last act. So the little Stay Puft guys kind of served that, and you needed someone covered with marshmallow at the end.
You needed something to compete with Baby Yoda. That's what you
needed. Exactly.
And you need to sell some plush toys.
You gotta sell the merchandise. That's what it was.
Sell the merchandise.
Just give it a story reason for that being in there. Like they
Ewoks, or
but it was a fun little scene. I loved it.
It was a fun scene, but like
it's very long.
Story-wise,
it was long.
They didn't explain it.
Like
and it made
little
no sense.
suicidal babies.
But they were also like they were channeling what they were going after. They were going after.
I get it.
It was the same as Dana's dress. Like Dana's dress from the first film was the same dress that the mother ended up.
That's what I want to bring up. Is that Gozer supplies the sparkly dress.
That's fine with
I thought that was Sigourney Weaver's. Like I thought she went through the closet and changed into it.
Well, she was going on a date. I think that's what the idea was.
It's established that she just rips it off and it's supplied by the ghost.
That was great, though. I thought that was funny as hell. I thought it was just like
that works, but I don't. Then it doesn't like why is
for sure.
But
why are there little Stay Puft men?
Yeah.
I like the Stay Puft Man. The Stay Puft the Marshmallow Man was my favorite part of the first one as a kid.
Right.
That was my favorite toy. Like I got the toy for my birthday
that is all
one year, and I still remember the smell of the box, and I opened it. It's just one of those moments in my life that I'm gonna remember. Is when I got the Stay Puft Marshmallow action figure.
Did it smell like marshmallow then?
No, it smelled like a vinyl toy. Brent. The hell? Why would a toy smell?
I don't know. I didn't know they had flavoring smell added to it or something. I don't know.
It's just an iconic plastic smell.
Just that and toys still smell that way. Like vinyl toys and stuff. So I still get a flashback to my Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. That ended up getting like a marker stain on him when I was.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was like a neon pink marker on it.
So just quickly going into this film, was anyone concerned about kids were ruling this movie, that they were the leads going in, and what was your thought about the process of these kids being part of the role?
I had no problem with that. Like it, we're in this strange world. Stranger Things. Whole thing, like it's a trend right now, and it's always worked, with your ETs and your
Goonies.
Goonies.
It's like a Goonies adventure.
It's like Goonies, but with less screaming.
Yeah.
Screaming the whole time in that movie.
Max, your thought process on that with kids going in?
I was really concerned at first,
right?
But
little cameo.
It was a giant cameo.
But I thought the kids pulled it off.
Right.
It's your destroyer.
Absolutely.
Is that your destroyer, Max?
Yes.
The Traveler has.
Jamie, you're going in with the kids?
I mean, like, I know that there was a lot of conversation going into it that it's just going to be Stranger Things on screen, but like, I love Stranger Things. So like, I was really looking forward to like seeing something adapted this way. And like, it became really clear really quickly that these kids were totally different than each other. It wasn't like they were all teaming up just to do things like Stranger Things style.
Or even, I mean, they were,
Phoebe just wanted to do her science, do her own thing, and then like, I forget Finn Wolfhard's character's name. He's just a normal teenage boy. He just has a part-time job, and he just ends up with a bunch of kids. So like,
wants a car, wants a job, wants this girl. And he just,
I thought it worked out perfectly.
I like how
I totally
fall
agree,
into place. Like he's just joyriding, and then they end up ghost busting.
I love how there's no questions asked. Like, what were you doing? And then he's just like, oh yeah, sure, take a ride. And then she's just like,
podcast as the Ray.
That kid was a little odd, but very, very funny.
He was like Ray.
Funny.
He was to be the Ray.
Very much like Ray.
Just so enthusiastic. And I love that he follows him. He's the one
follower for his show.
The one.
I love that.
I like
that. That was funny.
He's another
really
character
picks up
that,
in episode 47.
Right.
He's another character that
Yeah.
I think he's another character that should have known about the Ghostbusters I mean, I know he says, "What? I'm ashamed of myself for not knowing the Ghostbusters."
Well, yeah, he's also a little kid too.
Yeah.
I know, but if you're like a kid and you're doing podcasting and you're like on the internet, how are you not gonna like come up with
especially if your main subject is cryptozoology. But I mean, at least he's mad at himself for not knowing that.
Yeah. Max, you were gonna say? Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say that kid podcast could have been really annoying, but he wasn't. He was
actually. I liked
it.
Yeah.
I liked it. I liked his weirdness and I liked his enthusiasm.
Yeah.
I thought it was great.
And it's like his first movie, so I think he's very fresh and like I guess the enthusiasm is because it's his first time.
Yeah, I think I saw an interview with a kid before I saw the film, and I was just like, "Oh God, is this kid gonna be really, really annoying?" And it's turned out.
So Brent, what did you think? Did you have worries about a kid cast?
I was genuinely lightly kind of concerned because it's like going from where we went from 2016, it couldn't have gotten any lower, but. I'm going to take it back to Jason Reitman's directing. I think he's a really fine director. I think he did an amazing job with this movie, and I think he pulled it together. And it's interesting because this film was supposed to come out a year ago, and then COVID hit, and then they realized they couldn't release it. So I don't know if there was any fine tuning they did during this year, or whether this film just sat as it was at the finished product.
I'm sure there was. I can't see how they
the one thing they probably changed,
not work on effects or whatever.
Yeah, the years that was on
the years on the end.
That's probably like the one thing. Yeah. But other than that, like everything seemed to be.
It felt like a pretty solid film from the where they would have left off and where they would have dropped it a year ago. So in the end of the day, I thoroughly enjoyed it and thoroughly enjoyed the kids as what they were, and they weren't so over the top that they were irritating. There are times in, say, Stranger Things where I can sit there and go, okay, that was a little annoying, but then again, that was also the 80s, and I grew up in that time period, so I'm remembering something of my own childhood. This is taking children of today's day and age and putting them in this mash about how do you take a kid from the big city or wherever it may be and unpluck them and put them in the middle of rural America. And it was kind of a cool look at that as well, which I
think that was done really, really well. One thing that's like hard to translate in general is how to get kids right in modern day. It's just like they're either glued to their phone or like that's it. And so like I like how they almost started with like that like trope with like Finn Wolfhard is like glued to his phone and then he doesn't get any service and so he has to look up.
Has to take away the phone.
Yeah, that seems to be the way to write them.
I didn't even
think about that.
That's funny though.
That's pretty cool. But that's it's good. And like having kids, how else are you gonna get the kids to watch this too? You want something more relatable. Right. They're not gonna watch a bunch of middle-aged men.
Why is my dad crying at the end of this movie?
But then we have our Paul Rudd to attach to, someone who's aware of the stuff that happened in New York. But does not mention the Statue of Liberty coming to life for some reason.
I feel like for people like in universe, Ghostbusters was some like urban legend type thing. So like you guys know the show Drunk History. People just recount random things that like happened. I feel like that's like what people feel like the whole tale of the Ghostbusters is. It's like these guys like did this thing, and there's a well documented evidence that it happened, but like. Do we believe that? And so I feel like in universe, the popular like culture or the popular everyone doesn't really like believe it actually happened, even though it's well documented.
Our skepticism runs rampant enough for it to be like this, like, oh, that's a conspiracy. That's all lights and stuff. Like, that didn't really happen.
We know that the mayors of the time didn't particularly like the Ghostbusters, and there's always a chance that could have been all buried and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I know when he's showing them on Google. The other little Google, on YouTube or whatever, like the little YouTube clips on the side are saying where are the Ghostbusters now, like the titles are like made up.
There's
like
a breakdown on how a proton pack works.
Adam Savage has builds on that. I think that's I loved the use of that. Like there's one way to
like an
really
existing Adam Savage video.
That's
a real
funny.
one that they were able to put in there
for sure.
I loved the use of YouTube within this though, because it really just does cement it in. Hey, this is when this is happening, in which we have all this information to find. So they have like the commercial, obviously, and then just like random footage like as well. And like I love how they.
I would have actually liked to see more of that. They could have just done a montage sequence of them getting together information just by looking online, which I thought would have been funny.
But
and like,
I think that's another thing you got to consider when you
sense.
do a movie is the realism of your online research.
Right.
You know, and that felt really fluid and it felt realistic. Like that's exactly what I would have done.
Right.
Was go on YouTube and show the commercial.
Yeah, it's like commercial. Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, and if someone was to take that seriously, they'd be like, are you sure? So like I can totally see how people wouldn't believe that this even happened at like that point in time.
So before we wrap this up, one last quick question from everyone: would you like to see a sequel to this Ghostbusters in the near future?
Yeah, always.
Yeah. Yes.
I think. I mean, it's definitely going to happen now.
Yep.
I mean, they made a lot of money on it, and they really left it open to where now they can kind of go back into
the kids are going to get dark suits,
do whatever they want.
They
can make Winston like the the leader of the Ghostbusters, or like the Nick Fury of the Ghostbusters, sending people out. You know.
Yeah, I love how that was left off. How he's just like kind of just like this like mystery finance man.
Oh, that was
just
great. That post credits scene.
Oh yeah,
we should talk about that very quickly too. The post credits.
Winston finally gets his his.
I love that he started out with like, if he has a steady paycheck, and now he's supplying the paychecks. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I like where everyone's at these days. You know.
Right.
Yeah. He was like the most blue collar out of all of them, and now he's like bankrolling.
And it was great to see that character get to that level of status.
And out of the original cast,
obviously.
I could see him being the one. They're like, heck yeah, I'll do more Ghostbusters movies.
Because he still looks the same.
Oh,
he
hasn't aged a bit. I'm sure he loves it, and like if he's attached to like more movies, like he's like the financer of the Ghostbusters for additional movies. That really allows.
It's really of the times. You know? Yeah, he's kind of like he's like their fund. He's their what do you call it? Venture fund capitalist type of dude to kind of bankroll the whole thing. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas in like the first one, it was just like, you know, a bunch of guys trying to do their own business and having to deal with like big government. And so it's a trend for the 80s, but it could really be looked at as libertarian propaganda. If you really think about it.
Yeah.
Well, moving on, I would love to see a new movie or a series eventually.
For sure. No, totally. Yeah.
You could definitely do like in every major city.
Oh yeah. I never even thought about a series.
It would be fantastic. I implore all of you to go look up classic Ghostbusters fan films from the mid 2000s, like Ghostbustin' 911 and a couple other random things like that. It is a straight up spoof of Reno 911, but they're Ghostbusters. It's fantastic. It's old. It's on YouTube though. So like if it's something crazy like that, like it'd be fantastic. But yeah, like I would love to see a series, because the way that everything like is like right now, which is like media coming out, is it's series are the way to go. So
it's what Star Wars turned into.
I'll take anything, but like it's gonna be a series if they do anything more, I feel.
Well, guys, we'll tie this off right about here. I do want to thank Jamie from Holonet Marauders who popped in. Is there anything you want to plug?
Thanks for crossing streams with us.
Crossing the streams with us. There you go.
Of course. Yeah, that was fantastic. Thank you guys so much for letting me come on the show again. Like I'm always down to talk Ghostbusters, but I can only talk about it so many times, right?
For sure.
I'm always talking about it.
That's cool. Anything you want to plug that's coming up?
My podcast is Holonet Marauders, and so we're kicking back up soon with a Book of Boba Fett coming out at the end of the month. We'll be doing weekly episodes and weekly live streams on our YouTube channel, so just check us out there. And then my social media is all this direction. We'll
put it in the link below. We'll put it down the link below.
So yeah, Holonet Marauders and Jam the Jedi. That's me.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool. And then guys, the rest of you, thank you very much. This is a lot of fun. All right, guys, thank you once again, and thank you everybody out there. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Please follow Holonet Marauders and check out their stuff. And we will talk to you again soon.